Recording in progress. uncles, and they don't. They're like, oh, okay. So you're still part of the mob, right? No, thank you very much.
I'd like to welcome you to the October 12th Planning Commission meeting. And so to start off, we'll start with the flag salute. So you please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll do the roll call.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner DiMattei.
Here.
Commissioner Dahlgren.
Here.
Commissioner Rontine.
Here.
Commissioner Watts.
Here.
Commissioner Woodward.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'd like to welcome everybody to today's Planning Commission meeting, which is open to virtual and in-person participation and may be observed online through the Placer County website. If you would like to make a public comment, please fill out the speaker slip, which is located on the table near the entrance, and place it in the basket. I guess the basket is up next to our clerk's desk, or is it on the desk? Okay. Basket's on the desk. Okay. For members of the public attending via Zoom, please raise your hand with the hand icon at the bottom of the page. If you are calling in, please press *9 to raise your hand. Please be prepared to speak at the time I open the public comment for a specific item you would like to address, which may include public comment for matters not on the agenda, consent item, and hearing item. Each commenter will be entitled to 3 minutes of comment time. Thank you for your patience as we work to ensure that each citizen who has wishes to comment has the opportunity to do so. So thank you. And with this we will, also I want to advise you that today's hearing is being recorded. I'll open up the meeting now to our planning director.
Good morning, Chairman Johnson, Commissioners, Chris Fahuli, Planning Director. Wanted to start with, again, thanking Lee Chavez, who's here, our environmental coordinator, for the training, the CEQA training that was put on a couple of weeks back. Thought Lee did a fantastic job. I thought the training was really beneficial for the commissioners. Andrea did send a link to the YouTube video, so all of you should have access to it. It is available on YouTube for those members of the public that are watching in today that would like to review the training. But wanted to start with, again, thanking Lee once again. Wanted to also update the commission on some upcoming board items. First, the Tahoe Basin Area Plan Amendment package is scheduled to be heard before the Board of Supervisors on October 16th, Monday. That meeting will be held in Tahoe. Wanted to note that the action that will be before the board is to hear the item, and there will be a continuance of it for final action to October 31st. While I'm on the October 31st board meeting, also wanted to mention there are a couple planning items that are also going on that date to the board, including the Hidden Creek use permit modification, which was heard by the Planning Commission not that long ago, as well as our general plan update contract award with PlaceWorks. That will also be on the 31st agenda at the board. Two other items just to note that will be in front of the board soon. The Auburn Airport rezone is scheduled for November 14th. And then the rezone to meet RENA, the housing rezone, is tentatively scheduled for either November 27th or 28th. There may be a special meeting held on the 27th for the item. I will keep the Planning Commission updated as to the status of those meetings. As far as the Planning Commission schedule is concerned, there are items lining up for hearings through the end of the year, including tentatively a December 14th meeting in Tahoe. So if there are any schedule conflicts, please update the calendar and let Andrea and I know about any of those conflicts. I also wanted to note that at your next meeting on October 26th, we are going to be scheduled to hear the Morgan Crossing appeal. And so as I mentioned at our last meeting, we're expecting that item to take some time. So I think we will plan accordingly that might be a longer meeting. The two other things just to mention, I did want to note that just yesterday, Governor Newsom signed a number of housing bills, and staff will be reviewing those to determine applicability to the county and to projects. I know that the Planning Commission has shown quite a bit of interest in housing legislation and its impacts, so we'll be working on evaluating and getting back to the commission with perhaps a report back in the very near future. And then lastly, and with the chair's consent, I would like to ask Commissioner Woodward to take the floor and to provide some very timely remarks.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chris. I appreciate it. Just a short comment, has nothing to do with today's meeting or anything like that, but this is the 50th anniversary year of the end of the Vietnam War. And I just wanted to bring to people's attention that fact and then just make a quick comment about it. Whether you studied that war in history or whether you lived it, I think we all agree it was a pretty divisive time in American history and a pretty challenging time. And oftentimes the people who deployed to Vietnam and were Vietnam veterans, they came back to a country that was so divided that they really didn't have an opportunity to get appreciation and thanks from people in America because, of the division. And so they came back and they were, oftentimes verbally abused, physically abused, treated very poorly, and that sort of thing. And so I discovered 2 meetings ago that our chair, Rich Johnson, is a Vietnam vet. He deployed as a soldier to a location in Vietnam, which was really a site of some pretty vicious battles, probably at a time when that war had already taken 50,000 plus Americans and was ultimately going to take 58,000 plus hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese as well. Imagine being an 18 or 19 or 20-year-old or whatever he was at the time and going over to Vietnam and doing that and then coming back to a divided country and facing a country that really didn't say thanks. And so I thought today we might give him a round of applause and appreciation and thanks for his service, his sacrifice. Rich, we can't repay you, but we can say thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, surprise. Thank you. Okay, with that, that's hard to follow. Okay, so at this time, I would like to open it up to public comment. And so this would be on any item that's not on our agenda today. And so if anybody in the public would like to make a comment, now would be the time on something not on the agenda. Not seeing any hands raised. Anybody online? Okay, well, I'll go ahead and close the public comment period. And let me see, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 3 items today. The first one is the action agenda from our last September 28th meeting. And the next 2 are extensions of time, for the first one being the Auburn Creekside Center extension, and the second one being the Timberline at Auburn extension of time. And so at this time, I'd like to ask, let me see, I'm going to start with the public. Would the public, anybody like to pull an item from the consent agenda?
Morning, Chair Johnson, Commissioners. Wayne Nader. I would like to have the Timberline item removed for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody online? Commissioners? Okay, well, let me see. I'd like to go ahead and pull the Creekside from the agenda. And the reason being is this is their 3rd extension. And there's a lot of public interest in that particular site because it's so visible from Highway 49. And so at any rate, we'll go ahead and pull that one too. So with that, Commissioners, that leaves the September 28th agenda item for approval. So I'll take a
I move the approval of the agenda
move it.
I'll,
Move it.
s-
for
Excuse me?
September 20th, yes.
Oh, September 28th. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
I have a first from Commissioner Watts and a second from Commissioner DiMattei. Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner DiMattei,
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren,
yes,
Commissioner Rontine,
Yes.
Commissioner Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And so at any rate, we'll start with Creekside.
Good morning, Chair Johnson and fellow commissioners. Just take a moment here to get set. Okay, we're ready. These on so I can see what I'm looking at here. Good morning again. Alex Fish with Planning Services Division. The item before the commission is an extension of time for the Auburn Creekside Shopping Center project. I think we skipped past Auburn Creekside Shopping Center project, tentative subdivision map, conditional use permit, and variances. This is the third and final extension request for this project. We're located obviously here in this chambers in North Auburn. So is the project. The project is just about a mile to the east of us here. 13.2 acre project site specifically is located on the east side of State Route 49, shown here. In the North Auburn area, just a few hundred yards north of the intersection of Bell Road and 49, between the easterly future extension of Education Street that comes out from the hospital area here to the Education Street to the south, I should say, this area here, Rock Creek Road to the north, and then Quartz Drive to the east. This is the east extension of Quartz Drive right now that would get improved. And we do, I should mention, have the Auburn Target shopping facility located to the south. So this site is designated commercial on the Auburn-Bowman Community Plan. It is zoned commercial plan development, combining design scenic corridor, combining aircraft overflight with a portion of the site that runs through the middle here, including a flood hazard designation. That's where Rock Creek passes through the center of the site. Surrounding land uses are a mix of commercial and professional office designations and are developed with those type of uses to the south, east, and west, with land uses to the north consisting here of undeveloped land. Also have single family and multifamily residential here, and lesser amounts of low intensity office uses mixed in with those residential uses. This is obviously an illustrative of the shopping center. So when constructed, this commercial retail shopping center will continue the pattern of existing commercial retail development along State Route 49, obviously extending north of Target with on-site circulation between the two sites, which would be interconnected here at the south end of the Auburn Creekside project. This is a surface parking lot connector that will then connect in over to Target. A total of 7 commercial buildings would be constructed with just over 90,000 total square feet. This project was approved as a phased project and may be carried out either as a single phase with the entire project being constructed at once, or more likely, as is currently planned, carried out in 2 phases. The first phase consists of these 4 buildings along Highway 49 that comprise the western portion of the project. The second phase consists of these 3 retail anchor tenants in the eastern portion of the project. Square footage for the 2 phases is approximately 27,000 square feet for the first phase. Those are the smaller retail options, and then about 63,000 square feet for the retail anchors. The site would be developed with a total of 400 parking spaces, which will allow for a mixture of big box retail, specialty retail, some limited restaurant uses, as well as office and medical services and similar land uses. I should mention that when taking action on this project in 2016, the Planning Commission's action included certification of a final EIR that was adopted for this project. Shown here is just some renderings of the smaller buildings. The retail anchors are constructed, or would be constructed rather, with a similar architectural vernacular, using a mixture of cementitious siding, stucco. There's awnings and some other articulation features that are built into the buildings. I wish I had a better visual for you for the retail anchors. They just didn't translate very well to the PowerPoint setup, so I didn't include them here. But in terms of status of this project, the county team has been working on this very diligently for the last 5-6 years with this applicant. It is a pretty heavy lift for this type of a project due to all the public infrastructure that is necessary to carry it out, as well as some of the responsible agency permitting. So this project has received all of its responsible agency permits for impacts to Rock Creek. So that includes approval of a nationwide permit from the Army Corps of Engineers, as well as a stream alteration agreement from California Department of Fish and Wildlife. The only outstanding piece is the water quality certification from the regional board. That happens when the improvement plans are approved. Speaking of improvement plans, there are improvement plans for on-site improvements and off-site improvements. Those plans are in ready to issue status. They've been through 8 rounds of plan check. Same is the case for the final map. The final map has been deemed technically complete by the county surveyor for the Phase 1 project and is ready to be carried out. As I mentioned, this would be the third and final extension of time for the project. Okay, let me just catch up on my notes here for a second. I did mention earlier the project would construct substantial public and private road improvements. I'm going to go back to the former slide because it's easier to describe here. But all of these, there's actually frontage along Highway 49 that was in part the recent frontage improvements that Caltrans constructed 2 years ago. Some of those were Caltrans obligation, some of that was Auburn Creekside obligation. The county Department of Public Works worked with Caltrans to effectuate construction of Auburn Creekside's portion of those improvements with a fee agreement that is due upon the issuance of this project. As you can see here, there's also substantial public benefit and improvement in terms of the Education Street extension that would be constructed, this roundabout that connects into Quartz Drive, the improvement and widening of Quartz Drive to the north, and then also running north-south, I should say, and then along the northerly property boundary of the project, improvement of Rock Creek Road. So there's a pretty heavy lift in terms of the project financially with its public infrastructure obligations. County staff has and will continue to work with the applicant to find supplemental funding sources for those improvements. So with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve this third and final 2-year extension of time for the Auburn Creekside Center project based on the findings in staff's report and subject to the modified conditions of approval. Do you want to mention that I have John Margowski here? John is the representative for Auburn Pacific Properties. He's also available to answer questions, and if the commission so chooses, I'm available to answer questions at this time as well.
Okay, questions?
I just have one. Alex, my apologies. I was going to correspond with you, but I just forgot, basically. This is a pretty simple one, though. What confuses me a little bit, or confused me when I read this, was that we approved this in August of 2016,
Yep.
This is the third extension being requested, but weren't there state mandated COVID, relief in that whole period of time that would push this back?
There were, and it would appear just on the surface that those would apply, but they are, they rely on the dates of expiration. And so that project, when it was approved, was granted a 36-month initial term out to 2019. And because of that, none of those state mandated extensions applied to the project. And so there was one that potentially could have, but there was a window in terms of its approval and its expiration that was part of the calculus of how you determined if that extension would apply, and it didn't fall within that window.
Okay. Other projects seem to have benefited from that state mandate.
Yes.
Would you, in your judgment, was this applicant affected by the COVID just like everybody else was, or?
You know, that would be a good question for Mr. Margowski. I think really the driver of this is, John will have a better handle on the financial commitment to public improvements, but we are millions. And when I say millions, I don't say a couple million. I mean, we are probably $10 million public infrastructure cost for this project. That's been one of the major drivers, the working with Caltrans on the State Route 49 improvements, which the project had originally submitted improvement plans to Caltrans. We have an intensive improvement plan process, so do they. We have to coordinate those efforts. Other things that are in terms of complexity and difficulty carrying out the project. Obviously, you have responsible agency permits. All of these things together kind of really make a project like this something that takes a long period of time to get all the necessary approvals and financing and everything else that's required to carry it out. And I think those were the primary drivers, but Mr. Margowski may have a better lens on that than I do.
Okay, go ahead.
With the complexity of this project and it taking so much time, is it feasible or possible that it's going to be able to get funded and done within this extension of time? Or is this going to come to an end in 3 years and he's going to have to refile?
Excellent question. I will probably not correctly cite the provision in MAP Act, but it's 66452.6, I believe. For a project that expends more than in 2012 $236,700 in off-site, non-contiguous public infrastructure improvements, that project is automatically eligible for a 48-month extension of the MAP upon the timely filing of that MAP. So that would, if this project is carried out, it will definitely meet those criteria. I've already been in discussions with our county surveyor over that and our engineering division staff. So there is a question in terms of what does that do for the conditional use permit variance approvals. I think ultimately assuming that phase one project is carried out, and the MAP is extended, we may be back before you to look at the reapproval of that conditional use permit and the other attendant approvals, the variances, to conform to the timing of the MAP in terms of its public infrastructure commitment. But we'll have to take those things as they come. Right now, I'm just kind of projecting what could happen, and we'll have to see what actually happens and deal with those circumstances as they present themselves.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so the extension of time, that just applies to phase one, or does it apply to the whole project?
It applies to the entire project. Right now, the way the project is positioned is specifically to carry out phase one. Again, Mr. Margowski has details on tenants that are anticipated for phase one. There are some deals that have been made, and the project is positioned to, if this occurs, the county and the project applicant are in a position to move it forward and carry it out to construction.
Okay. Okay, any more? Okay, thank you. Let me see applicant, Mr. Margowski, if you would like to make some comments, you're welcome to do that.
Thank you, Alex. John Margowski, representing the Auburn Creekside project. To respond to Mr. Woodward's question regarding the COVID thing, while COVID affected everybody and, you know, there were times where there was no one in the office over there, that was really a minor piece of this delays. A lot of it had to do with Caltrans and trying to make the project financially work because of all the various infrastructure that's required. So Highway 49, adding a lane, you know, just in the beginning, we didn't even know Caltrans was working on the same job, so we had to go through permitting and with Caltrans, and that's a real challenge. And so COVID, it affected us, but not materially compared to other things. So, and Alex did a fine job. Was there any other questions that?
Well, there was a question with regards to the large amount of public infrastructure and how that might potentially affect this project in the future.
It really could. Right now, phase one, I'm confident will go under construction next year. We were hoping for this year, but it's rainy season already, so probably April of this year. So phase one, I'm confident can handle the infrastructure load. Phase two, I'm less confident, and like Alex alluded to, at one point we attempted to get some CDBG funding, but you know, that whole process, the owner had problems with some of the paperwork and timing and all of that, and so we didn't proceed on the CDBG funding. But the bridge on education, Alex, do we got I guess this is it. Top button. This here is a bridge, and while you think, okay, no big deal, when you go out there, it's like a little itty bitty creek that you can jump across, but because of the Army Corps and Fish and Game, it had to be a certain size and a certain height, and, you know, in my opinion, probably over-engineered as well to allow for, you know, a big flood. And so the bridge there is expensive, and then on this side, while we're not required to have a bridge, it's still required to have, I think it's like 10 different concrete culverts, and so it all adds money, millions of dollars, and so to get tenants back here that could pay for that is a challenge. So like Alex said, we're going to be looking for help to get some public money on phase two specifically. So.
Okay, is that it, folks? Commissioners? Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody from the public that wants to make a public comment? Did you want, did I hear? Okay. Hey, anybody online? Okay, with that, then we'll close the public comment period and bring it back to the commission. And what we're talking about is a 2-year extension of this project. And so if there's any discussion or a motion, we'll entertain it now.
Having been on the North Auburn MAC, reviewed this previously before, glad to see it continuing to experience life and potential moving forward. So I would move staff recommendation to approve the third and final year for the side project based on the findings of the staff report reflect, subject to the modified conditions of approval.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
I have a first from Commissioner Watts and a second from Commissioner DiMattei. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner DiMattei?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Rontine?
Yes.
Commissioner Watts?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodward?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And so now we'll move on to the 2-year extension for the Timberline project. And so we'll have a staff presentation on that.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Patrick Dobbs from the Planning Services Division, and that was a good discussion that I think will be informative for this next item, which also is a 2-year extension of time. This is for the Timberline at Auburn project. This consists of a tentative subdivision map, conditional use permit, there's variances, and a minor use permit. Site is located on the north side of Bell Road at Richardson Drive here in North Auburn. It's just across Bell Road from the Government Center. The project site is 119 acres approximately. The site is within the Auburn-Bowman Community Plan, and there are a mix of land use designations and zoning. Those land use designations include high-density residential, medium and low and medium-density residential. There's open space and commercial designations. There's also corresponding zoning, including residential multifamily, residential single-family, farm, and office professional. And there are also a number of combining zone districts throughout the project area, including the aircraft overflight design review, and there are also density limitation and minimum building site districts combined with various base zoning for the project area. The decision that is before you today is regarding this 2-year extension of time, but the Timberline at Auburn project itself is a large mixed-use continuing care retirement community. At build-out, it would include 858 residential units. These are age-restricted, and they are would be constructed amongst a mix of housing types. These include multi-story assisted living buildings. There's duplexes, there's single-family detached. There will also be residential lofts over commercial area. The project includes up to 33,500 square feet of commercial area, 90,000 square feet of medical office, or 185,000 square feet of professional office. There's an RV and boat storage facility and trail construction associated. These are some photos of the phase 1 on-site construction and site conditions. Using this color exhibit in the middle, you can see where they're located in relation to the overall project. Photos on the left show some of the senior villas that have been constructed. And then the photo on the right shows an undeveloped area of the site, including that NID canal in the foreground that will be encased and undergrounded in phase 2. Other phase 1 photos, these include photos and simulations. This is all of the same 3-story building that's currently under construction. And a look at some of the photos and graphics of off-site improvements that were associated with phase 1. Those include a lot of sewer work done to improve the overall sewer district. This is replacing pipes from Joger all the way down to Dry Creek in phase 1. There's been other widening and improvements on Richardson Drive, as well as a new intersection at Richardson and Bell Road, or a new signalization, traffic signal at that intersection of Richardson and Bell Road. So those are some of the look at the on-site and off-site improvements that have occurred. And so transitioning into the implementation status, the project, the graphic on the right does show the 4 phases that were originally approved back in 2011. Construction, on-site construction was delayed. This was due to some permitting requirements with the Army Corps of Engineers. There was considerable time required for the design and construction of the off-site sewer work, and then market uncertainties that we've been experiencing over the last 15 years regarding the Great Recession, COVID, and the likes. So work did commence in 2018, and since then, 25 senior villas have been constructed and are occupied. There are 91 senior units that are in that 3-story building that's under construction. So a total of 116 units will be completed in phase 1. I've touched on the extensive regional sewer work and the signalization and other improvements at Richardson Drive. So all of those infrastructure improvements totaled over $6 million in phase 1. Again, the remaining portion is that 3-story building that should be completed next year. There are a number of public improvements and infrastructure improvements totaling nearly $10 million in the remaining phases. This includes road extension of Richardson Drive, improvements to Courts Drive. There would be a new traffic signal at Bell and First Street. There's intersection improvements as far-reaching as New Airport Road and Bell Road. There are additional sewer segments that will be completed, as well as that NID canal encasement and an undergrounding that I mentioned in later phases. I've got a lot to cover on this page. The project was originally approved by the Board of Supervisors on August 9th, 2011, approved for 3 years. There was an automatic state extension during that time that the project benefited and received an additional 2 years as a result of the passage of Assembly Bill 116. And on August 8th, 2016, the Planning Commission approved the first extension of time for the project that extended the expiration to August 9th, 2018. And here's where it starts to get a little confusing. The project's conditions of approval include multiple conditions with conflicting information pertaining to exercise and expiration timeframes. Condition of approval 194 specifically includes an approval timeframe of 3 years. However, it goes on to state that the project may have an initial approval period of 13 years due to timeframes associated with phased maps and off-site improvements. This is in accordance with the Subdivision Map Act. Similarly, condition of approval 198, this is specific to the minor use permit that authorized trail construction and wetland construction. That also authorized an approval for 13 years from May 12, 2011, and established an expiration date of May 12, 2024. In 2016, the extension of time approval did modify some of the language in condition of approval number 194, and it established an expiration date of August 9th, 2018. However, all of that original language regarding the 13-year approval timeframe still remained. And now shifting a little bit from the conditions to map recordation. On October 3rd of 2018, the first phase of the subdivision map recorded, and we talked about that in the last item regarding this off-site improvement obligation expenditure exceeding the $236,000 valuation threshold. And so when that first phase map recorded, it was automatically extended for 4 years, establishing an expiration date of October 3rd, 2022. And earlier this year, February 2023, staff were reviewing the improvement plans for the Phase 2 off-site sewer work, and we're looking at the expirations, and we reach out to the applicant and asked what the status was with the expiration date on the tentative map. And they responded that they believe the entitlements were valid through 2024, as is indicated in these conditions, stating a 13-year approval. Staff agrees, the language is confusing. Condition of approval 194 could have been interpreted to mean that it granted a vesting period that ran through May of 2024. The applicant did file this extension of time application in June of 2023. We've modified conditions of approval to remove reference to these conflicting dates and expiration dates. And if approved, it would establish a new expiration of August 9th, 2025. If approved, again, there would be one additional 2-year extension of time remaining. A lot of things I threw at you on that slide. When the project was approved in August of 2011, the Board of Supervisors certified an EIR for the Timberline and Auburn project. Pursuant to CEQA guidelines 15162, staff has determined that there have been no changes to the site or the project that would warrant additional environmental analysis for this extension of time. I didn't receive any public comments, but I did have some correspondence with Mr. Nader last week, who indicated that he was wanted to discuss the item. Same as the last project, the applicant's representative is John Margowski here on behalf of Western Care Construction. And with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve this second 2-year extension of time for the Timberline at Auburn project entitlements based on the findings in the staff report and subject to the modified conditions of approval. Thank you.
Okay, questions?
You said the final date was August 9th, 2025.
If you approve this 2-year extension, it will run through August 9th, 2025, and there would be one additional 2-year extension from the county available and any associated extensions through map recordations and the other things that I've discussed.
Okay, I guess, is there any other questions? I guess I have a question with regards to the public improvements that have to be done at this point in time. Does that have any potential effect on future final dates?
Let me see if I understand. I mean, the expiration dates are going to be dictated, determined by these conditions of approval and map recordations, and then potentially anything else that the state may want to offer between now and then. So I'm not sure if I totally understood that the improvements themselves do not trigger any extensions, but when you record the phases of those final maps, there are automatic extensions associated with that when the offsite improvements exceed that $250,000 value.
Okay, so the 2-year extension we're talking about here is total completion of the project?
I mean, you are extending the entitlements for 2 years. Now, are the remaining phases going to be completed in the next 2 years? No. They will either come back for an additional extension, or they will be granted extensions through the recordation of map for phase 2. So there are a number of ways in which you know, the clock extends, but it's a big project. And while this will buy them some time to, again, record the map and to commence construction on phase 2, this extension in and of itself will not get them through completion, I don't believe.
Yeah, so they'll have phase 3 and 4 still to do in this 2 years too, plus the public improvements?
Again, this isn't the final extension that's available, so if they can do it all within 2 years, great.
Oh,
If
this
not,
isn't the final?
that's right. This is the second of third,
Okay,
second
so
of
they
3,
have actually 4 years then.
potentially.
Yeah, potentially
But
4
we're doing,
years.
one
With-
step at a
with the
time.
approval of another extension.
That's right. You, as a commission, have up to 4 years to extend this project. There are other things, like I said, that are kind of outside of the county in terms of subdivision map act and other things, you know, if the state passed automatic extensions. But this would be the second of 3 extensions from the county.
Okay, thank you. Let me see, is that it from the commission? Okay, Mr. Margoski, would you like to address the commission on this particular issue?
Sure, John Murgowski representing the Timberline at Auburn project. And as I guess I didn't mention, but I was involved in the project in the very beginning, and then 10 years I wasn't involved, and then just recently I've been involved again. And I think Patrick did a fine job of explaining things. He's correct that I don't see us finishing the entire project in 2 years, but there are an additional 2 years plus the final map. So hopefully in that amount of time, we get everything done. As far as the offsites, like the offsite sewer and the offsite signal at Bell and First and some other things, the new airport, that all gets triggered on phase 2. So the public road improvements are phased based on traffic that you generate on the project. So those 2 would get built in phase 2. And the sewer improvements also would be triggered, and they're also triggered by the number of people that live on the site, would be triggered in phase 2. So those would probably be built within the first 2 years, just because that's a condition of the project. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
No questions? No questions this time, thank you. Okay, I'll open it up to the public period, public comment. And so I see Mr. Nader stepping forward, so.
Wayne Nader, resident of North Auburn, also somebody who's now in line of fire because I've decided to run for supervisor for the 5th District. I understand that obviously all that's before you today is the extension. I'm here to discuss the process that has kind of developed, especially now that we've seen the construction part of this coming together. But I first want to thank Patrick for his time last week. We had a very lengthy discussion about the project, what the status is, and so that was, I appreciated his time in doing that. The issue for us, and I'm trying to represent the people that are on Sunset Terrace that border to the west of where the current construction period is going on. And also there are people that on part of Tahoe Street that are also being impacted by this. When this was approved back in 2011, it was presented to the residents along there that it would not take away their view of the Sierras. And just to give you a perspective, those people along, especially the eastern side of Sunset Terrace, had a panoramic view of the Sierras, all the tall peaks. So it was an amazing view. And that they were told at the time, again, that they would not lose that view. And that view has been completely obliterated. It's not even close now that the construction's gone up. And so that is meant frustration and obviously disappointment. It certainly is impacting the values of our property. As you can imagine, view properties are certainly much more appealing to potential buyers, and that's gone. Now we're just looking at this massive building. The other issue that has happened, and that happened in 2014, without a hearing, there was an administrative decision to allow the complex to kind of reorient some of the buildings. And some of it was, I think what now they're constructing is much more of a visual mass than what was originally proposed. So they've moved them around to more of the edges. And so for that reason, particularly on that, I believe it's the south north corner of sort of the east corner, they have, northeast corner, excuse me, have moved the structure over there. And so now it just has a much more large appearance than it might have had these buildings been left in their previous position. So that there wasn't a hearing on that. Again, that was done administratively by the planning director, signed off on that at that time. So all I want to do is go on the record that we were misled, severely misled during that time. And we're frustrated. There's not much we can do. We can't go out there and ask that the building be torn down to the standard that we thought it was going to be as far as our view. So I know that's not what's before you today, but I want you to all know that this is something that we feel should have been told to us more honestly at the time. So we knew that. But they knew that it was, if they had stated that there would have been a much more louder opposition to it. So, okay. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer them, but that's my point.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. Any other public comment? You see somebody?
You have my paper up.
Okay, somebody on
Yes,
Yeah,
Cheryl
okay.
Berg.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Berg, and I live on Tahoe Street. And, yeah, what Wayne said, I just reiterate. My property value has been destroyed. I used to be able to see the Sierras from my yard, and then from my deck. Now, the only place I can see it is from my kitchen window. And then if they go ahead and build this building that we were not told about, that it was going to be so gigantic, the next one, I won't even be able to see anything from my kitchen window except a building. And if you don't have all of these years, there has been building and building and building. First moving half of the mountain down into the valley. Usually in Auburn, we work with the contour of the land, but not now. They move a mountain down into the valley and then build it up. So even instead of a 3-story building, it's a 5-story building because they have added so much ground. And why this is allowed, and then they're going to build another one. And like Wayne said, we weren't told about how gigantic this was going to be. And at the time that it was approved, I was concerned with the retail part over on the edge blocking any view. Oh, no, it won't. It will just go right along this horizon. Your view will not be stopped. And why? I know I'm just a little teeny person, but I'm not so teeny, I'm a lot of fluff, but it's that individuals don't matter anymore. It's just big money matters. And this whole country, why don't they make them stick to this? If you're an engineer and you go to plan something, for heaven's sakes, if I was going to build a house, I would know what it took to build the house. And I know what it took to have, I'd have to pay attention to the sewer and to the lights. Why didn't they plan this ahead of time? Anyway, I just ask you not to just let them keep going on, and they don't pay attention to the building. It's tap, 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 tap at 6:30. Or when they moved all the land, it was the big motors at 6:30. I thought there was a 7 o'clock thing. But anyway, so for all of these years where I live, it's building, 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 and it looks like it's going to go on forever if you just keep approving and approving and approving and approving. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other comments? Okay, with that, we invite staff back if they'd like to make a response. And then also the applicant, will give the applicant a chance to comment too.
Yes, thank you. Obviously disappointed to hear the commenters' concerns, but it is something that we went out and took a look at. And I can tell you that, while there have been some adjustments, I would say that, the unit count, the height, this is all consistent from what I can tell from the original approval. I just went up there last week, and it's really hard to see kind of the light was a little flat, but this gives a sense of the 2011 final EIR and the anticipated buildings in the foreground. And again, hard to see that Sierra Ridge line kind of through those trusses, but obviously I don't have the exact same angle. Here for comparison, maybe a little better. Again, this is an extension of time, and when this was brought to our attention, we went out and looked, and what we're seeing seems to validate the analysis that was done in terms of visual impacts, and again, the height, the unit count, this is all consistent with the approval from our perspective. So that was my response. Again,
any questions?
Just a couple. You put up the recommendation for extension of time, which makes perfect sense, obviously, but you also mentioned that there were some modifications to the conditions of approval, basically to clean up, I think, administrative errors and mistakes, perhaps, that were in there, 194 and perhaps another one. Is that something that requires our action as well with regards to recommendation, or was that done administratively? And already taken care of?
We can't change conditions that you approve, so.
Yeah, so that's why I'm
we're
asking.
asking you to, the changes in the conditions do address, do kind of remove these conflicting dates. And then there's also some updates to engineering standards.
Okay, so we're going to approve those recommendations today as well, or
That
discuss
is what
them?
we're asking.
Okay, I didn't see that.
That is part of
Okay.
the packet. I think attachment C is the recommended conditions.
Okay, I apologize. Then the second thing is, I am curious about Mr. Nader's comment, and by the way, very sensitive to the other comments as well, but we are focused on the extension of time, so it is what it is. But there was is it accurate that there was an administrative decision to modify the configuration of the buildings, subsequent to the approval in whenever it was, 14?
Yeah, I'm wondering what shows this best. The answer is yes. That was a planning director determination, almost 10 years ago, and it affected this 3-story building that's currently under construction, and I guess it was reconfigured in consideration of walking distances of the senior occupants and that sort of thing. There have been some slight adjustments that are building code driven, things like firewall separation, but if that answered your question, there was a planning director determination that, again, didn't change any height, didn't change any unit counts, but it did adjust the footprint.
And that's consistent with county code?
Yes.
Okay.
Chair Johnson, if I if I may as well, since there was a
Sure.
question about the construction hours, I did, and we were talking about conditions of approval, just wanted to call attention to condition 116. It does lay out the hours of construction activity. Does state Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. during daylight savings, and 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. during standard time. And so we, with Mr. Margoski here, he can relay that to the applicant. We can also make sure to let the applicant know about that as well.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
And Mr. Magowski, would you like to make any comments at this time?
No, I appreciate everyone's comments and concerns. Don't really have any questions regarding the hours. I'll make sure that that's taken care of, standard time and the other things, but really I have nothing more to add. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, question? Okay, thank you. I guess at that point, I think I've already closed the public hearing. I assume I have. And so at any rate, I'll bring it back to the, well, probably already have brought it back to the commission. So what's the pleasure of the commission at this point? Any further discussion or motion or what?
The only thing I'm thinking, I know it has nothing to do with what we're doing or what we have to approve today, but maybe in the future, if something comes up and if we go back to that picture that's taken over the fence, it looks like it's much elevated over the windows that are in that house. So I could see where she is concerned that she lost her view. I think maybe in the future, planning or whoever's in charge should probably reconsider height approvals and actually going in physically to these people's homes instead of just taking a picture over the fence, because obviously it's elevated over a 6-foot fence and those windows are way below that, and kind of line of sight for that makes me think that it wasn't really taken into consideration for, you know, the residents who currently live there and had that view. So I just think in the future, going forward, that things like that should be addressed. So that's my only concern. So thank you.
Okay, commissioners?
I guess we'll make a motion.
Yeah, otherwise we'll just sit here.
I don't want anybody to look at me any longer than they have to. I recommend that the Planning Commission approves the second 2-year extension of time for the Timberland at Auburn project entitlements based on the findings in the staff report and subject to the modified conditions of approval.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
I have a first from Commissioner DiMattei and a second from Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner DiMattei,
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren,
Yes.
Commissioner Rontine,
Yes.
Commissioner Watts, Commissioner Woodward.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for the discussion of those items, and so that completes our consent calendar. So at this time, we'll move on to our hearing items. And our first hearing item is in regards to the Hammond Rock House, number 1, as being included on the Historic Resource Register. And so let's go ahead with the hearing on that.
Wonderful. Well, good morning, Commissioners. Chairman Johnson. My name is Callie Kettinger-Cecil with the Planning Services Division. And this morning is a request from the Placer County Historical Foundation on behalf of the property owners to include Hammond House number 1 on the Placer County Register of Cultural and Historic Places. So today's presentation will include a discussion of the project setting as well as the historical significance of the property. I'll also talk a little bit about the Historic Preservation Ordinance, and then I will conclude with a requested recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. The project site is located at 460 Airport Road in the Bowman area. The approximately 2-acre site is shown here outlined in blue. It's currently zoned residential single family with a combining minimum building site of 100,000 square feet and a combining aircraft overflight. The railroad is to the south. Machado's Orchard is also to the south. Interstate 80 is to the east. Up here to the north, we have Bell Road, and to the west, we have rural residential land uses. Mr. Lester Hammond Sr. was born in 1893, and he was raised on Hammond Ranch, which is just north of the existing Machado's Orchard. He was stationed in France in World War I, and while he was awaiting transport back home, he learned masonry skills. He brought those masonry skills back with him, and he built a home in 1927, and that home was so unique, it was actually featured in this version of Sunset Magazine in August 1933. These are a few photos of the home. The home is very unique in that Mr. Hammond sourced the materials locally. These are railroad ties, and all of the stones that you see here are sourced locally from local mines. This shows the front of the home as well as the layout. This is actually from the Sunset Magazine article. It originally had a low-pitched gabled roof. In 1980, the property owners did add a second addition, but it maintains the structural integrity. The rockwork is really interesting. It faces the side of the building. It also has built-in rock planters throughout. Inside, there's also quite a bit of rock work that's done. It's very unique in terms of its construction. It's very interesting. And it has a lot of really interesting local artifacts within it in terms of the stones and materials that were used. Mr. Hammond also built 3 additional rock homes in the old Airport Road neighborhood. So there's a total of 4 rock homes in that area. He built 24 rock houses from Auburn up to Soda Springs, including the Cisco Grove gift shop, which is shown here. He also constructed countless walls and fireplaces and homes throughout Placer County. And similar to the 4 homes in Old Airport Road, he used local sources in all of his artwork. So he was not just a masonry, or involved with masonry, he was also an artist in terms of what he constructed. He also did other art that won awards in other places, but he was a very interesting artistic person. These are some photos of the other rock homes that are in the Old Airport neighborhood. Again, very interesting designs, very unique to especially, I think, the Auburn area. While we do see a lot of rock in homes or a lot of rock walls, the use of just local rock for the primary construction feature is very unique. You can also see that there was a pattern to how he laid out the stones. He was very careful in how he placed them. There was a lot of thought and expertise that went into the construction of these homes. So the county has a Placer County Register of Cultural and Historic Places, and this, or resources, sorry, not places. This register is established by the Placer County Historic Preservation Ordinance, and this ordinance sets forth the criteria for listing eligibility as well as application requirements. We received the application to place the home from the Placer County Historical Foundation, and we also received letters from the Historical Society and the Historical Advisory Board, and the application was also reviewed by the Historical Advisory Board. As noted in the letters from the historical foundations, it is potentially eligible for listing under Criterion C for the National Register. In terms of registers in general, there are 3 that a county property could potentially be eligible for, including the county register. There's also a state register, and then there's the nationwide register. In terms of the county register, there's only one other site that is currently listed, and that's the Halbum House in Ophir, which is also known as the PCWA Heritage Center that was added in 2011. So this would represent the second property that is on the county's listing. There are a number of sites throughout the county that are on the state and national register, but again, we only have one on the current register. Listing on the register does not provide tax incentives at this time, nor does it prohibit the property owner from making modifications or repairs. However, it does enable the Department of Museums to review permits for repairs and modifications to ensure that that activity maintains the historical integrity of the structure. If the county were to eventually enter into the state program called the Mills Act, which is a state tax incentive program for historic properties, then properties could potentially be eligible for that program. At this time, the county is not a local government that is enlisted in the Mills Act. But if ever that occurred, that could be a tax incentive available to property owners. The primary benefit for property owners is that it does import a local distinction. It is a local recognition of the historic resource. And it's also helpful for properties if they do eventually want to be listed on the state and national register. Adding Hammond House Number 1 to the county register is consistent with the goals and policy objectives for cultural and historic preservation in both the general plan as well as the Auburn-Bowman Community Plan. And I'd like to note that the homes, not just Hammond House Number 1, but all of the homes he constructed, they're architectural artifacts of the early 20th century and are unique to the Bowman area that can serve as inspiration for current homeowners, or current builders, I should say. I think the other thing that's unique and important to point out about the Hammond houses is they represent a slice of Placer County history that is largely underrepresented. Much of our history is, I feel like the gold rush really overtakes a lot of our history. So this is just representing a slice that we don't hear about very often, and I think it's important to recognize that. The request to add the home was presented to the North Auburn MAC on September 12th. And at that MAC, they voted unanimously, 5-0. There were 2 members absent to recommend the home to be placed on the Cultural and Historic Official Register. So with that, I request that you provide a recommendation to the board to add the Hammond House Number 1 to the official register of cultural and historic resources on the basis that it satisfies the criteria set forth in County Code Section 1560080 and make the following findings, including that the proposed action to add Hammond House Number 1 is exempt pursuant to Class 31 for preservation of historical resources, as well as exempt under General Rule of CEQA, that the proposed resource materially benefits the historic character of the community, the preservation of the house is essential to the integrity of the district, and it is connected with the construction style that was once common but is now rare. The home retains sufficient integrity such that it possesses design, materials, and workmanship that existed during the resource's period of significance, and although portions of the house have been altered, it still has sufficient integrity to yield significant historical information. And finally, that addition of Hammond House Number 1 to the county's official register of cultural and historic resources is consistent with the goals and policies of the Placer County General Plan and the Auburn-Bowman Community Plan. With that, I conclude my presentation. Mike Lynch from the Historical Society is also available, and I believe that the property owners are also here. So if you have questions for them, they're available. Otherwise, I'm also available to answer questions. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I apologize if I missed, but who submitted the application?
It was the Placer County Historical Foundation on, the Historical Foundation on behalf of the property owners.
Is there an interest or desire for the other homes that were also built by Mr. Hammond, the 4 other homes in the Bowman area, to also become part of this registry?
We haven't received an application for them, but perhaps, Mike, have you heard from other? Okay, wonderful.
Okay. So we have the historic.
Mike Lynch, I'm here in a couple roles, but I'm the vice chair of the Placer County Historical Advisory Board. So the advisory board, as per the county code, reviewed the application initially and held a public hearing on it. We got only positive comments of adding it to the register, and our board did vote unanimously to recommend to the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors that it be placed on the county register. And you have that letter, so I won't go into all those details. As far as the question about the county code provides for a historic district. So in the future, the owners, Patty and Dennis, were very interested in doing, and it was house number 1. But one of the other houses, the owner is also very interested, and it could become a historic district with all 4 rock houses eventually. So, but we initially just went with the 1 because they were very interested and willing, and it was the numero uno.
Thank you.
So I don't know if you have any questions. The County register also includes properties in the county that have been designated by national or state. They go all kind of automatically on the register, but so, you know, Gold Run and other places are listed, but they're not, haven't been approved as a local one. So that was another kind of question. Anything else? All right. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you. Well, let's see, we'll go ahead and open up for public comment. And property owners, if you'd like to comment, you're welcome to come forward too. Okay.
That's not mandatory.
Thank you, Commissioners. Dennis Dong, 460 Old Airport Road. We've owned the house since 1978. Raised 3 kids there. 3 kids, 4 dogs, 3 cats. Enjoyed the house very much. And when Mr. Lynch came by and noticed the house and asked us about the registration, we really didn't know what was involved with it, but we were quite interested. We expect nothing out of the registration ourselves. But if it's something that can help the community and help the historic aspects, we're all in favor of supporting it. But we've enjoyed the house, as I said, for 45 years now, and yeah, we're still there.
Okay.
It's a beautiful house.
Yeah,
Well, thank
thank you. Okay, we have other public comment?
Donna Howell.
Yes, hello, I'm Donna Howell. I'm Vice President of the Placer County Historical Foundation, former President of Placer County Historical Society, and a former member of the Placer County Historical Advisory Board. I worked on the 1990 Historical Resources Inventory for Placer County. This is where you go out and you document all the historic buildings and sites that are over 50 years old. This is a state program through the State Office of Historic Preservation. And at that time, we documented the 4 most visible, elaborate rock houses there on the old airport road. And this is where we got a lot of our information. Luckily, we got to talk to the Hammond family at that time. And so this is what we use for a lot of the information we put in the Bowman book that came out several years ago. Mike and I are both co-authors. And at the end of this survey, the part of the intent was to put some of these qualifying buildings and sites in for applications on the historic registers, whether they were local or state or federal, the National Register of Historic Places. Well, this was never done. So this is kind of a follow-up on that. And we think, again, there's 4 there on the airport road that we may make a district of. So there may be more applications coming for this. So we use number 1 because it was the best documented, because it had the article in the Sunset magazine. And we may refer back to it other times. But we do have other historic sites and places in the county that we may follow up on later. So we're just kind of sending this one out as our first, I don't want to say trial balloon, but it's the best one we can come up with for now. So we think they're beautiful houses, they're well built, and very unique. So we think they're well worth documenting and keeping on records. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any others? Nope, nobody online? Okay. Well, with that, let me see if there's, if staff has anything more, you're welcome, or otherwise we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission.
Chair, if I could, I'd like to just mention a couple things, since this is a bit of a new one for the commission. So, placement of this house on the historical resource list. There are some benefits that come with it. There are alternative building regulations for structures that are designated as historic resources. There's the incentive for reduction in property taxes, as Callie had mentioned. There's also potential for waiver or reduction of fees and permits required by the county to comply with the Cultural Resources Preservation Ordinance. In terms of, and also potentially expedited processing of development applications. All of those are set forth in our county code. If the property is listed on the register, there is certain requirements, and that is that ordinary maintenance and repair can occur, but anything that modifies, demolishes, or removes an architectural feature of the property needs to get permission from the planning director in advance, and potentially referral to the Board of Supervisors. In addition, any maintenance or repairs notification must be provided to the planning director 10 days in advance of any of those. But there are some other benefits. The museum administrator is available to render advice and guidance on the proposed work, even work that does not require a county permit. And of course, any demolition, removal, or modification without planning director approval would be a code violation and could be enforceable.
Okay, thank you. Okay, commissioners, it's up to you.
Will they get a nice little plaque that they can put on their house, like they do in Pacific Grove? Work on that.
You want to come out and see it, it's going to be open for the arts tour, exactly, in the near future.
Where could we find that information?
Google Placer Arts Tour.
It's in November, right?
Addie, one of the owners, has a studio there, and they have the property open for that tour.
It's in November, like right before Mandarin
Yeah.
season, like right before Thanksgiving. Sorry, I've got Mandarins on my brain.
Okay,
I'm ready to make a motion.
yeah.
Can we back it up to 1? Thank you. So I recommend that, we recommend to the Board of Supervisors that they find the proposed action to add Hammond House Number 1 to the official register of the Cultural and Historic Resources exempt pursuant to Class 31 Preservation of Historical Resources and exempt under General Rule of CEQA.
Second.
Okay, roll call?
I have a first from Commissioner Woodward and a second from Commissioner DiMattei. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner DiMattei?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Rontine?
Yes.
Commissioner Watts?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodward?
Yes.
Thank you.
Further recommend to the Board of Supervisors the proposed resource Hammond House Number 1 materially benefits the historic character of the community. The preservation of the house is essential to the integrity of the district, and it is connected with a construction style that was once common but now rare.
Commissioner Woodward, in the interest of time, I think you can take items 2, 3, and 4 of the proposed items as one motion if you're so interested.
Sure.
And that would be just to recommend to the Board of Supervisors to add Hammond House Number 1 to the Placer County Official Register of Cultural and Historic Resources on the basis of the findings contained in the staff report and in the presentation.
Okay, so that covers 2, 3, and 4?
I would cover all of the remaining items.
Okay,
yes.
so I move as stated.
Okay,
Second.
okay, roll call?
I have a, was that a second from you?
Yes.
I have a first from Commissioner Woodward, second from Commissioner DiMattei. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner DiMattei?
Yes.
Commissioner Dahlgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Rontine?
Yes.
Commissioner Watts?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodward?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Good job. Next stop, Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll move on to the Riolo Vineyards specific plan, the Freefold, development.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Nick Jafero with the Planning Services Division, and the item I have before you today is the Friswold subdivision, which is a project under the Riolo Vineyard specific plan. The Planning Commission is being asked for its recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to approve a rezone, vesting tentative subdivision map, and development agreement for the project. It looks like we have, let's see, the correct slides uploaded here.
You just keep teasing with those mandarins.
Chair Johnson?
Chair, while we're working out the PowerPoint, I suggest perhaps maybe we take a 5-minute break to get the right PowerPoint queued up, if you're okay with it.
And so we're in the process of continuing this?
Just a 5-minute break to
Oh, okay.
to get the PowerPoint uploaded,
All right,
if
thank
you're okay with that.
5-minute break.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Nick, if you're ready, we're ready. We have one coming, but he'll be here in time to catch the conversation, so.
Okay, sure. Sorry about that. We'll continue
Well,
here.
that's all right.
So I'll just continue on to the correct slide here. So just to give you an overview of the Rio Vineyard specific plan, it's located in the southwest portion of Placer County within the Dry Creek West Placer Community Plan area. This map shows the Friswold property in relation to the specific plan and Dry Creek Community Plan area. As you can see, the specific plan area is located north of PFE Road between Watt Avenue and Willarga Road, and Dry Creek forms the northern boundary. The approved Silver Sage subdivision is located directly to the north. So the specific plan covers 525 acres and the ultimate development of 933 residential units over various phases, including low-density and medium-density residential, estate residential, and rural residential lots. The plan also includes open space, recreational, agricultural, and commercial uses. The specific plan was approved in 2009 and subsequently amended in 2015 to address land use and zoning modifications. Since 2009, 4 subdivisions have been approved as separate phases under the specific plan. Mariposa, which is phase 1, included construction of 107 residential lots. Glen Willow, which is phase 2, will have 177 residential lots and is near completion. It's actually about 80% construction complete. Silver Sage, which is phase 3, will include 280 residential lots and is currently in improvement plan review. And lastly, Mason Trails, which is phase Y, will have 170 residential lots, and it's about halfway through construction. And so Friswold is actually phase Z. So in 2014, the specific plan was approved. It included a rezone of 6 of the 14 parcels from their underlying zoning designations to SPL-RVSP, which is the Rio Vineyard specific plan zoning designation. All 6 were under one ownership, which was Homes by Town. At the time, the 8 remaining parcels, including the Friswold property, were under different ownership and retained their existing zoning. So therefore, the applicant is requesting the rezone for this property from the existing zoning, which is neighborhood commercial combining use permit and design scenic corridor for the western portion of the site. And then for the eastern portion of the site, the zoning is residential single family combining agriculture, minimum building site of 20,000 square feet, development reserve, and planned residential development with two residents per acre maximum to the SPL-RVSP, which is the Rio Vineyard specific plan designation. So here's the tentative map showing you the property encompasses approximately 16.4 acres. A total of 118 medium-density residential lots are proposed for the subdivision, and 2 landscape lots are proposed as well. On-site amenities include a Class 1 trail located along PFE Road within the landscape lots. And then there's direct access to Silver Sage Parks to the north, which I'll go into a little bit detail later. There's 2 points of access off of PFE Road. L Street would be the main entry, and G Street would be the secondary entry off of Silver Sage subdivision. And that entry would either be constructed with Friswold if it's not previously constructed with Silver Sage. So as I mentioned, Friswold will have access to the 2 parks in the Silver Sage subdivision. For access to Park 1, you could see on the slide on the western portion, the project's been conditioned to require construction of a temporary 20-foot access road to provide access to the path would be constructed within Park 1 unless the roadway has been previously constructed by the Silver Sage subdivision. The path inside the park will ultimately connect to a Class 1 trail that leads up to Dry Creek. This slide also shows you the residents would have access to the larger park 2, which is about 2 acres located in the Silver Sage subdivision. So this map just shows another view of the Class 1 trail that runs from the west side of Park 1 and ultimately connects to the trail along Dry Creek. And then on the right-hand corner, you could see the Class 1 trail that would be in the landscape lots along PFE Road. This is the fencing plan. So basically, it would be community wall fencing constructed along PFE Road and the east and west boundaries, similar to the walls already that you could see constructed along Mariposa and Glen Willow on PFE Road. And there would also be on the, sorry about that, on the eastern corner, monument-type community wall and signage at the entrance. And there's also enhanced fencing for the 2 side yards on the back of the subdivision. So for the project, a development agreement has been prepared, which includes several provisions. Just to give you background on the purpose of development agreements, the development agreement provides vested rights and assurances to the developer for a set time period that their project could proceed if they fulfill specific development obligations required by the county. Development obligations may include constructing and financing infrastructure, certain county public facilities and services, financial contributions for public infrastructure and facilities maintenance, and any other requirements as specified in the project's conditions for development. For Friswold, it's actually fixed to a 20-year term. One of the provisions is the required payment of certain fees for the project, including sewer system annexation fees, county public facility fees. There's a Riolo Vineyard specific plan fee, and there's several other fees, as you can see listed here on the slide. Another provision of the development agreement is requirements to meet the 10% state affordable housing requirement. For very low income units, the applicant will be required to make a payment of $471,616 to the county's Affordable Housing Trust Fund for the construction of 4 very low income units. They will be required to construct 5 accessory dwelling units to meet their low income requirement. And lastly, for moderate incomes units, they'll either have to construct 3 accessory dwelling units or purchase ADU housing credits from the Mason Trails subdivision. Another provision is required design construction of a PFE Watt Avenue intersection improvements, if that's not already been completed by the other developments in the area. And then lastly, for parks and trails, as I mentioned earlier, unless it's been constructed already by Silver Sage, a temporary 20-foot access road to Park 1 would be required and a Class 1 trailhead entrance into the park. Also, there would be 4 on-street parking spaces provided. So for CEQA compliance, for the specific plan, the final EIR was adopted and certified in 2009. 2 subsequent addenda were adopted along with approval of the mitigation monitoring program. An environmental checklist was prepared by Rainey Planning to evaluate the project for any changed conditions. This can be found as an attachment for your staff reports. Based on the checklist that was completed, staff concluded that the project would not create any new or significant impacts, and the project is consistent with the specific plan. The Friswold project is considered exempt from CEQA based on CEQA guidelines section 15182 and 15183, and on the basis that is consistent with the previously adopted final EIR. Therefore, no further environmental review is required. With regards to public outreach, the project was presented to the West Placer MAC as an informational item back on November 17, 2021. At that meeting, concerns were expressed regarding the combined level traffic impacts Due to the Friswold project construction occurring during the same time period as construction associated with the PFE Watt Avenue intersections improvements. We went back to the MAC as an action item on May 18, 2022. No concerns were raised at that meeting, and the MAC voted 4-0 with one member absent to approve a motion recommending the board approve the entitlement package. So with that, staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Supervisors the following actions based on findings contained in the staff report and subject to conditions of approval. First, determine the proposed project consisting of the rezone, the development agreement, and a vesting tentative subdivision map is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15182 and 15183 on the basis that is consistent with the previously adopted final EIR. Second, adopt an ordinance to rezone the Friswold project site as shown in attachment B to the staff report. Third, adopt an ordinance approving the development agreement by and between the County of Placer and Riello 386 LLC relative to the Riello Vineyard specific plan. And last, approve the Friswold vesting tentative subdivision map. So with that, I'm available to answer any questions, and our applicant team is here as well.
Thanks. That was great. Question, if it was not rezoned, how many houses would be allowed in that section of the Friswold with the ag residential or residential ag?
So the property is, like I mentioned, it's the eastern portion of the property. I don't have the acreage on that particular portion, but it would be two residences per acre maximum allowed on that.
Okay. The reason I ask is because doing what I'm doing, I get a lot of ask from residents in Placer County that they want to have the option to have bigger lot spaces, to live in an ag residential, to have their kids grow up in that kind of environment here. They feel like everything's getting stacked on top of each other, and they feel like it's turning into the Bay Area. So something like this, I think if it was more prominent and out there, that would, I can't tell the landowner what to do, but I think there's an ask for this. Especially being in ag and being in an ag community, I get a lot of this ask from a lot of people coming out and saying, hey, we wish we can live in a place like this. I had something else I was gonna ask and I forgot. But anyways, to have something like that, I think is imperative to our community, because this is what people move here to for our communities, because they love what we have here. And to start pushing more of this, I think it's not consistent with what we have here in Placer County. And people really want to have more open space, especially the way things are going. So just wanted to know what it would be to be like that and not have this turned into 118 houses where it would probably just be maybe 50. And so anyways, just my thoughts. Thanks.
So Commissioner DiMattei, if I may just make a comment in response to what you just said. As Nick mentioned during the presentation, the property is split zone, so part of the property is zoned commercial, and obviously there's much more development that could occur on the commercially zoned part of the property. As he also noted, the property is located within the specific plan. They were non-participating at the time. However, the property is located within a specific plan. So this area was planned for development. I do think that the comments that you made are tremendously timely and relevant, given that we're about to undertake a general plan update.
Right.
And those types of comments about development in general, preservation of open space, where some perhaps lower density options might be available in different parts of the county. I think those will be very timely during the update process. So just wanted to make sure to make those couple of remarks.
Okay, so being that this was already in the general plan, I mean the specific plan, sorry. there's no way to help keep that portion that's already in ag residential without being rezoned to have 118 houses instead of maybe 20
That
or
would be
30.
in discussion phase of our meeting.
Right. So I'm just learning, so that's why I'm asking, because it's an ask from what I, hear out when I'm doing, so that's why I was concerned about that. But thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Any more questions?
I have one.
Here.
I apologize for running back in late from the short break. I may have missed your comment, but what is the status of the PFE Watt intersection?
I could actually refer to Michael Wilson, engineering surveying on that.
So the Watt PFE intersection improvements have plans in for review, a first submittal. Based on this project, Silver Sage, they're all conditioned so that the Watt PFE improvements are completed prior to acceptance of any of these on-site subdivision improvements.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions? I do have one, I guess, and it's in relationship to the map of subdivision. And at any rate, it looks like to me the northern tier of properties actually extend into what is part of what was going to be Silver Sage, maybe a road in Silver Sage or something.
Correct. So Silver Sage is, you can see it actually runs to the north and east of the property. I don't have a map here showing the entire subdivision. But
You
it
had a
does
map
go
of
further.
this project, right?
This I could pull it back. So this is
Okay,
the Friswold map.
You look at the northern tier of parcels, and it looks like they extend outside the boundary of the actual Friswold property. Is that correct?
So, yeah, so in one of our first condition, there's a minor boundary line adjustment that's currently in process. There's a Lot B up here and then Lot B and C. As part of that process, those two remainder lots in Silver Sage would be transferred over to the Friswold property. So that's our first condition that we have for the project that addresses that. So that should happen probably within the next month or two. That would be processed.
So it's a coordination effort that has to happen, or?
We've received the application. It's been through a second submittal on that map. So they're just getting ready to tee up and have a final map so that it could be presented for approval.
Okay, so with Silver Sage, what originally was going to be in the northern half of those properties?
So for Silver Sage, it was identified as a remainder lots B and C. At the time, it was conditioned that those would be transferred to Friswold. So it was never.
Okay, so that was in the plan originally.
It was already accounted for, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
One more question. You said part of Friswold was commercial?
Right. So if I go back, so you could see the red on this here. It's almost half. I wouldn't say half of the property, but over on the west is commercial.
So the map that you just showed is just the yellow part?
Correct.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry. Take that back. It's the entire property. So, I mean, I think if you look at this, it'd probably be the redwood commercial. Would probably be like this area here.
So those houses will not be there?
They will be, because as part of this entitlement package, it will be a rezone. So the entire.
Oh, it's commercial now, it'll be rezoned.
Right,
to that.
the entire property would go to a
Thank you for
relevant
that
specific plan.
clarification.
Right.
You say, now I'm confused. There's a parcel just to the west. It is originally going to be, is proposed to be commercial? That's not
No,
part of
this is
project,
actually
right?
all Friswold. So that it's got, right now there's split zoning. So part of it's commercial, part of it's, the eastern portion's residential. what the ask today is for rezoning the entire property, entire parcel to the Rio Vineyard specific plan.
Okay, and so the parcel just to the west, what's that going to be zoned?
So that property is zoned commercial.
That's going to be the commercial property.
Right.
Is that part of the parcel, I mean, is that part of the Friswold ownership?
No,
No.
that would come in at a later date.
That's a separate ownership?
It's a separate
Later
ownership,
on.
correct.
Okay, I guess, you know, I did have some.
Quick question on the affordable housing. I saw your slide that it was satisfied, I think, the first four very low were, I guess, an in lieu fee. Did I read somewhere that some of that component might be transferred to Acres of Hope in Auburn or that?
So there was, not for this project, but for Glen Willow and Silver Sage and Mariposa, there was a fund agreement where funding went towards the Acres of Hope, and that funding's been completed. It was almost approximately around $600,000. And that was an agreement done at the time for those properties. But for Mason Trails and Friswold, they're required to provide this affordable housing on site.
Okay, that clarifies. Thank you.
Sure.
Nick, if this was left with larger lots and people were able to put ADUs on them, would that satisfy the requirements to the state for the builder?
Might need, I think, defer to Michelle Kingsbury and if she could. This on this.
Michelle Kingsbury with the Community Development Resource Agency. Since it would still be located in a specific plan, we would target still the 10% affordable housing broken down between moderate, low, and very low. Only ADUs can cover the moderate and low pursuant to our general plan. Hence why for very low, we either look for construction on site and or with this particular specific plan, since it's older, it was a bit of an anomaly. It had other options available, such as payment of an in lieu fee that could be credited toward those very low requirements.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Sure.
Okay, I guess looking for a little bit of presentation on, it looks like in the development agreement, there's road widening that extends down into Sacramento County and road widening that extends into Sutter County. And maybe you could explain that some of that is dependent apparently on the adjoining counties being willing to extend those roads or widen roads.
I would actually ask ESD if they could, engineering and surveying, if they might be able to answer that question better.
Okay,
Sorry
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, it seemed like there was quite a bit of discussion about it in the development agreement. So maybe a little bit of clarification, just understanding of what we're talking about there.
So the project is going to be required to obtain additional right-of-way for the intersection improvements. And it's going to obviously pose to be a challenge. But as far as the road widening, they're going to be required to obtain the additional right-of-way required to construct the improvements.
I guess you say it's going to be hard to, this is in Sacramento County that you're talking about, where the difficulty is going to be, I guess what the question that brings up is, you know, we're adding all these homes here, but if the roads aren't up to the standard that's going to accommodate them in the adjoining county, then we got a problem, don't we?
This is Curtis King, King Engineering. We're the civil engineer on the project. I can probably speak to some of the specifics and the status on that. So the Watton PFE intersection improvement, as ESD already answered, is in, plan check review right now. It's going to be a dual agency approval. It's being processed through both Sacramento County and Placer County. We have a right-of-way acquisition effort underway in both jurisdictions. The project's basically split. The majority is in the north, but there are some properties in Sac County that require right-of-way in support of the widening. So that's all in process. and consistent with the requirements of both Griswold and Silver Stage.
So Sacramento County so far has indicated they go along with it?
We've had high-level management, coordination between, Placer County DPW as well as Sac County, Sac DOT, staff and management. So we're all, tracking the same direction, and everybody's on the same page so far.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question. How is it with Sutter County, being that a lot of this traffic will be routed down Baseline to Riego Road? I know in the past, having property in Sutter County, they were not too happy with doing any improving on their own land there because of there wanting no revenue from houses there.
So for the Riela Vineyards traffic mitigation obligation, the limitation is stopped short of Dry Creek. So we don't have any part with direct, coordination or requirements from Sutter County, aside from the, standard regional traffic impact fee participation.
Okay. So it could go from 4 lanes in Placer County down back into 2 lanes in the Sutter County if there was no agreement, correct?
That's correct. And like I said, we're intimately familiar with the section between, Sac County and at the county line and up into Dry Creek. That's kind of been specific plans frontage. Right. I'm not as familiar with to the north with the Placer Vineyards considerations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Just to follow up on that point, Commissioner DiMattei, there is a impact fee for that 99 Riego Road intersection that is set forth in the DA, section 2.5.4, $398 per dwelling unit. So that amount would be set aside in the event that Sutter County does have some kind of fee structure set up to improve it. If not, then it would go to county projects, but there is an allocation for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, any more questions? Okay, would the applicant like to step forward? And is there an applicant here?
Good morning, members of the commission. My name is Olga Shirelli. I'm representing Summers West Development, owner of the Friswold subdivision. And we are very excited that it's getting close to approval, and we enjoy working with your staff. They've all been great. And if you have any questions regarding the acquisitions, I can answer those questions.
Okay,
All
I
good?
guess not.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, do we have any public comment? I don't see many public in here, but do we have anybody online? Okay, so with that, unless there's some more questions, I'll bring it back to the Planning Commission, close the public hearing. And if there's any more questions or discussion points, the door is open for you to comment or ask questions. I guess one thing I would mention is that when you look at the entire specific plan, when you're talking about the set aside for agriculture and open space, on this particular project, there is a considerable amount of it that is set aside for that in a specific plan, for both agriculture and open space along the northern edge of it.
Yeah, I guess that's all relevant to perspective on what is considered too much or not enough or little. Just considering what I've been going through right now, that's what I hear a lot out there is that we want more open space. We don't want houses stacked on top of each other. And to see a plan like this kind of goes against what I hear out there. They come out to our ranches, they come out to the agriculture areas, and they're like, oh, we wish we could get a bigger lot. So that was my concern, is to help preserve as much ag residential as possible.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to comment that I think this project did make an effort that way, at least if you look at the specific plan.
Yeah, if you look at the specific plan, but to look at that tentative map to see now more than 2 houses per acre, then I think that kind of goes against what people are asking for. So that's why I brought it up.
Okay.
If I could just make a comment on that, Anthony, I think you would not get an argument from me at all. For example, as I think everybody knows, I fought streamlining in 7+ all the way to the CEO on 2 separate occasions for 18 months. I don't believe anybody in this commission knows how streamlining works in the county, by the way, at this point. Streamlining, actually, we were told by the state what to do, but not how to do it. So the county staff has determined how to do it. We don't have a clue. I don't, on specific projects. Recently, we approved 6-1 vote, elimination of a setback or termination of a setback that was established by county code, and built a residential community to, I think it was a 10-foot setback approval to an industrial zone. So these are things we can control. I would love to see us, really take a serious look at that kind of stuff and ask ourselves why we are modifying and adjusting county code to stuff houses into places where, in my judgment anyway, they don't belong. And that was a 6-1 vote. So, we can control that. I don't think in this case we can. We can ask the staff to amend the existing general plan. We can ask the staff to alter the future general plan or try to shape the future general plan, and perhaps in the future you'll be able to do a better job of that than you can right now even.
Hope so.
And yeah, and then also, we could, I suppose, revisit the housing element at some point, although bringing that thing back is not something I want to do. But in any case, I think your sense for things is good, and there are places where we can control it, like setbacks and stuff like that, and we should take a serious look at that stuff when it comes through here, and not necessarily just go to development,
Right.
We have rules. If we just followed them, I think we might find some relief there. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more? Okay, we can just sit here for a while, or
Okay.
somebody can make a motion.
Before we make a motion, I do think staff's recommendation, we just need to modify the first recommendation slightly.
Okay.
And so when there is a time for it, I can read the suggested motion into the record.
Would it be appropriate to divide it to one and then the others?
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to do that. So if you'd
Well-
like, I can read in the proposed first motion if there may
Yes,
be an
I make a
interest.
motion and rely on staff to illuminate what we're going to ask for.
Sure. Thanks. So the first item would be make a motion for a recommendation of the Board of Supervisors to determine that the project consisting of the rezone development agreement and vesting tentative subdivision map is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15182 and is subject to streamlined review pursuant to section 15183 on the basis that it is consistent with the previously adopted RVSP FEIR, the 2012 addendum to the FEIR, the 2015 addendum to the FEIR, and the amended 2015 mitigation monitoring and reporting program, and is supported by the findings contained in the staff report.
Just to be clear, that's my motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call.
I have a first from Commissioner Watts and a second from Commissioner Woodward. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes?
Commissioner DiMattei?
No.
Commissioner Dahlgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Rotine?
Yes.
Commissioner Watts?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodward?
Yes.
Thank you.
Then the remaining motions, 2, 3, and 4 can be read as is on the PowerPoint.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to recommend that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Supervisors that they adopt an ordinance to rezone the Frisvold project site as shown in attachment B to the staff report. In addition, adopt an ordinance approving the development agreement by and between the County of Placer and Riolo 386 LLC, the California Limited Liability Company, relative to the Riolo Vineyard Specific Plan, Frisvold subdivision, and as well approve the Frisvold vesting tentative subdivision map. Thank you.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
I have a first from Commissioner Watts and a second from Commissioner Rontine. Commissioner Johnson,
Yes?
Commissioner DiMattei,
No.
Commissioner Dahlgren,
Yes.
Commissioner Rontine,
Yes.
Commissioner Watts,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on to, that was the last item, I believe, right?
Oh, you have,
I have a question for you before we adjourn. So
Okay.
whenever it's appropriate.
what have we done here? I guess.
Okay.
There's no more, right?
Huh?
There's only four.
We got 3 and 4.
There's only four, correct?
Yeah, I did all
There's
that.
4.
Okay, you did all at once?
Yeah, they were all done in that last motion.
Okay.
Okay.
So before he adjourns, he
We
wants
need to
get a
announce.
question.
Okay, so, well, at any rate, this is headed to the Board of Supervisors, and so, our representative, you can go forward and have your next presentation at the Board of Supervisors. Thank you. Go ahead.
So my question is just a simple question of procedure, because I may have messed up. On item, on the Timberline at Auburn item extension, I was non-voting because I'd forgotten how that map shaped out where Sunset Terrace and the other Tahoe Street were located. When I was able to come back in the building, I looked at the map and reminded myself, so I'd like to change my vote if that's feasible. If it's not, I'll just stand with where it is.
On the Timberline?
Yeah, so the process to do that would be to rescind the prior action and then take another vote on it. So two-step process.
I don't want to bother anybody, I'll just stand pat with a non-vote. Thank you.
Okay.
And just to clarify, I think we had you down as a no vote as
No,
opposed,
it's non-vote, I knew I'd,
so you meant to abstain from the
Correct.
vote? Okay. Andrea, did you have it down as a no vote? Just checking.
we have to do the whole thing. Yeah, pass. It
I
doesn't
think
change.
we'll note for the record that was an abstain
Right.
for that item, the Timberline
thank you.
project.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll see you on the, what is it, the 28th?
26.
26th?
Thank you.